analytics for goaltenders. We have Justin Goldman, who's a guru in North America, written books, conferences, all about analytics. Jonas Gustavsson, goalie, Edmonton Oilers, Detroit Red Wing, but also in Sweden for many years, known as the Monster here in Sweden. Thomas Magnusson, the godfather of hockey, been in the business for 40 years and has worked with so many of the best goalies, definitely from Sweden, but from all other places in the world. And then lastly, Mikael Vernblom, who is the co-founder of this analytics conference, but also a long history, Linköping for 7 years, and before that, many, many years in AIK, but also with the national team. And it's Mikael, or Micke as he calls, is his name, and he's going to take the show from here. So, Micke, the show is yours.
So, welcome, guys. Nice to have you here. Talking about hockey analytics and goaltending. That's something that I think has been something I've been talking about for quite some time now. And even things are developing so fast. We get different tools almost every month, and it makes things really interesting to see what we can do with it. Is it good? Is it bad? What's good? What's bad? And so on. So a short presentation. We start with the guy on top, Thomas Magnusson. Welcome. Who are you?
Thank you, Micke. Thanks for having me and letting me be a part of this. I may be the one who will talk about the evolution and the history of it, since I've been around for a while. I am presently Director of Goaltending Development at the Swedish Hockey Association, a position I've been holding for 15 years now. And prior to that, I was very much involved in pro hockey in Sweden, specifically in Djurgården for more than 2 decades in SHL as a goalie coach.
Yeah, good. Justin Goldman.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to be on here with 3 gentlemen that I've respected and admired for a very long time. So it's super cool to have this opportunity. Very non-traditional background in pro hockey. I started out as a writer and a journalist with NHL.com back in 2009, 2010. Went on this extensive, immersive learning experience traveling to different countries, learning about how goalies develop in Sweden and Finland and all over North America. And I was also an emergency backup goalie for the Colorado Avalanche for 5 years. So that was a very interesting experience for myself. And currently I run the Goalie Guild, which is a nonprofit foundation dedicated to educating and supporting goalies with mental health and with any kind of resources that they can use to get better. And I also sit on the goalie advisory board for Sense Arena, which is the VR training program.
Yes, thank you. Jonas Gustavsson.
Thanks for having me, Micke. My name is Jonas. I just finished my career a year and a half ago. I've been playing pro hockey for 15, 20 years in Sweden, in Färjestad and in Linköping and AIK. And I was also playing in North America for a few teams: Toronto Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins, Detroit Red Wings, and Edmonton Oilers. So I got some great memories from my time over there, and also playing with the Swedish champion or Swedish national team for a couple of tournaments, Olympic tournaments, and a couple of world championships. So I've been fortunate enough to be around hockey for many years in different venues and arenas, and playing with a lot of great players. So right now I'm a student. I study a little bit about business, and I also taking steps to become to know more about goaltending, and I'm actually doing the steps now to become a goalie coach as well. So I'm happy to be here and talk a little bit about hockey.
Great. And I was fortunate enough to have Jonas the last part of his career here in Linköping in SHL as a goalie coach. So, and we had the opportunity to work on together with some of the platforms that we will talk about a little bit today. So that's interesting. My name is Mikael Vernblom. Been a goalie coach, professional goalie coach for well over 20 years. Been with the Swedish national teams, the junior part of the national teams, different age groups for 13, 14 years, something. I'm right now a goalie coach in Linköping in SHL. So that's my background. And I'm also very interested in this part of the hockey analytics, the whole hockey analytics thing, and doing a lot of work together with the university here in Linköping. And that's how this conference also started. So that's the reason why I'm here. So hey guys, what do you, Thomas, short background. I mean, I was watching now the Swedes playing playing at the World Championships. I've been going through all the numbers after the game and looking to different things and spending maybe an hour on that just for fun. but it haven't always been like that. So what do you say history-wise? What do you think? What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I've been around long enough to see things happening very slowly at the beginning and going very fast now in development in analytics and the use of it. We actually started in, I think it was mid-90s. We had a software that a company involved in the medical field. They did some stuff for hospitals, for statistics and analyzing things that we were fortunate enough to use, which it was a forerunner, so to speak, to what we see today. In our club team, we had a chance to analyze no artificial intelligence, of course, but we got a lot of numbers sorted out. And this was goalie specific, actually. So we plotted and we analyzed everything the goalie was doing for a couple of years on our team, all their movement, all their saves, and we actually prioritized the saves before the goals because we thought that was more interesting. Actually, we could learn more from good behavior than what resulted in goals. And that's a bit how it started for us. I haven't been involved that much with any team since the past 10 years, more than my involvement with our national teams. And I've seen the development through the eyes of our video coaches, our analysts, and how it's been used and how we have tried out different software. And that way I've been able to follow what has happened the past 5 to 10 years. And I've also been fortunate enough, together with Justin actually, to meet some of the guys who also were in the forefront of this. Chris Boyle, who did the shot quality project in, was it 2014, 15? I don't know if he was involved in Sportsnet or if it was a project that he did for them. But that was the first time I was introduced to shot quality, actually, which sort of changed my view on this and the opportunities. And then I met Cole Anderson through Justin, who is an analyst who is now hired by the Philadelphia Flyers, who is really into this with the numbers and the analytics. So I met a few of these people and had a chance to chat with them and see firsthand what's been going on, and also following Steve Valiquette and what he has been doing. So I'm a student. I try to learn, and I try to see where things are going. But I think I have a very long perspective on this.
I think it was for many years, and also just to give you guys that are listening to this an explanation on why goalie coaches are so maybe interested in this, and that's because very often we're also video coaches. History-wise, I'm the goalie coach and video coach in the team, so I'm sitting there tagging manually on my computer, going down between periods, looking at clips, showing coaches stuff, going back up again, doing the manual tagging. And what's changed right now is that we got all this other data that's coming in really fast, and it's really, really accurate. I'm not even close to being that accurate as that data, and it's every game in the league every night, so it's adding up lots of information on players or teams or way of playing. So it changed, but still we're doing this manual part, I think, with the tagging, and that's because the reason for that is that we can get different camera angles, different views of one certain situation. So I can have a bunch of different cameras getting it from behind the net, above the net, from the side, whatever. And so that's important for us to get another view. And it's also, of course, looking at maybe the junior 20 or so, they don't have this machine learned data that's coming in. So they have another system, and that takes around a day before they get those things, the numbers and the video. So you still have to do it manually because they're not waiting. so we're still using the older way of working and the new way of working. So that's why we're all involved in some way, I think, with goalie coaches in the teams right now. Justin, your perspective of hockey analytics and all of these techniques.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible how, like Tomas said, it's evolving so fast. And I think I'm in the same boat. I'm trying to learn as much as I can and understand it, so that when I have to make observations or when I'm talking to a coach, there's a higher level of understanding between us. And I think that's really what it comes down to, whether you're on the player side or you're on the coaching side, you're just trying to get a better understanding of what is happening when you're in a specific situation or specific environment. The AI and the machine learning is very, very interesting because I think that also comes with a little bit of a learning curve for a coach. So being able to educate coaches on what exactly AI and art and machine learning is, and how to understand the data that comes out of that is an important part of being able to contextualize and have discussions about the relevance of the data that's being collected. So I think I'm in a situation where I'm honestly just concerned more with the why, not always how it works, because that can get very complicated and very complex. But for me, it's more like, why are we capturing this data and what are we trying to get out of it? When I was writing for NHL.com, covering guys like Jonas, it was, save percentage is basically a team stat. It's not really going to tell you much about the performance or the potential of a goaltender. It's only going to tell you what he or she did in that one specific moment. And yes, after you gather, years of data on save percentage, there is a lot that you can glean from that. But it's still almost kind of looking back as opposed to really being able to understand what might come next. So I think for me, I've always struggled a little bit, and I've always been a little unsatisfied with kind of the status quo of how goalie stats, create this perception of talent and of potential. But as we continue to kind of dive into these future facing technologies with artificial intelligence and machine learning, it is enhancing, the context of, how goalies are performing. And so that's really exciting. Similar to Tomas, I don't use the technology directly on a day-to-day basis, but it is becoming more part of the discussion and more part of the culture of goalie coaching and goalie analysis, whether it's team or individually based. So I think it's just really important to continue to learn and have an open mind. There are times where I feel like I absolutely hate the statistics because it's forcing me to ask more questions than I am getting answers. But at the same time, because it is so relevant and it is such a part of the culture of development, we do have to take some time to understand what these technologies are doing. And like I said, more importantly, just understanding the why. Yeah. Why are we collecting the stats? Why are we doing this work? What is it really helping us or trying to help us achieve as a team or as, a goalie coach?
There's been many years for me as a goalie coach where I spend hours and hours and hours of doing the tagging, analyze it, get it down to Excel sheets, and then try to figure something out, during the process, and it takes hours. Right now, it's, of course, as you all know, I can get those answers between periods. I can get them in a couple of minutes after it happened. I can also get some answers. Okay, this is happening quite frequently. Is the reason for this? And I can get the pattern, what was leading up to that thing. So for me, I can give Jonas information if I need to, during the game, after the game, whatever. It's easier. I save a lot of time. I can focus on being a goalie coach more. And if I have questions, I can ask the system the question just to get the numbers. And then it's the big thing, of course. I can click that number and all the clips are coming, pow, and I can look at it, because that's what you always have to do. But I think it's easy for me to get a good view, some good. I know what I'm looking for, I think, right now. It'll probably change next month, but right now I know what I'm looking at, what I want to know. And I also have ways to figure it out when the system tells me that, hey, maybe you should look at this. So that's an interesting change, I think. Jonas, you as a goalie, what do you think? I mean, you've been able to, I was thinking today how much we worked with it, how much you saw. Of course, my way of working is that I have to spend some time on it, and then I have to decide what to show you or not, and to be creative and also save your time and you spent on it.
Yeah, as a goalie, you want to, after a game or after practice or whatever it is, you always want to, especially if you had the off night, you need to get those question marks straightened out as soon as possible. And, just to be able to pinpoint what the issue is, I think for me, that helped me a lot. After a game or after practice, especially games, you had an off night, you really want to, get those question marks straightened out as soon as possible. For me, it was important just so I can get a good sleep, get ready for the next practice, next game. So to have a tool or to have you working on stuff to show me the clips, whether it's from you tagging or if it's machine learning, AI technology, just to get that quick feedback is, for me, it was huge. Early in my career, best case I could get CD about the whole game, and then I have to watch the whole game, find whatever it is, and I can't find it, and I'm not gonna really get any more knowledge from that. So my last 5-10 years of my career, I really felt like that helped me a lot to just figure out what was going on. If maybe it was better than maybe I did the right stuff, but I was just unlucky, or maybe I had to adjust some stuff. So for me, it was good, and it was fun to be part of the the change that was happening, and it's happening right now in full speed. So just to see the staff, I mean, when I 10-15 years ago, you wouldn't have any tech people on the team. Now, who knows, in a few years, maybe there's only one coach and 5 tech guys on the team, because, it's so important, and, it's just taking over. But on the same side, I think you also, you would need more elements than just that, but it's a great tool to use, and I used it my last few years.
Yeah, I think that that's also something that really developed the last maybe 2-3 years back in time. Coaches are getting so good at this. So 3 years ago they needed me to tell them what I see in the numbers, but nowadays they do all the work themselves in our coaching staff. So they also start to learn. They learn to use it in a good way, in a fast way, and also spending time on the right things depending on what your mission is in the team. So that's also interesting, and also you have that extra level also where actually players also get the ice time, and they can look into numbers and so on. So some guys care a lot and others not at all. So that's how it works, and I think that's okay. Yeah, and also I think it's so important because you end up in those discussions with people that, okay, but hockey isn't just numbers. No, it isn't. But this is just like you get this fantastic tool in your toolbox that you can use for a lot of things. That's what it is. It helps me in my work, but I still need to be a goalie coach. I still have to understand the game. I still have to, all of that haven't changed at all. But I get the good tools, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the rest of the society. In the future, mood managers and stuff like that. That's going to be all over the place. It's the same with hockey. You need people that actually can give that as well. Because it's more than, like you said, more than numbers and stats and all that.
And I also think that that's something that's also, I know that we will see part of this during the seminars that's coming up during this conference, is also platforms that we use so many platforms right now. We use something in the gym. We have something for something else. We have different kind of platforms that we log in and they're just collecting data. And one thing that's in the air right now is having an extra platform that collects all the platforms. So you can actually visualize by choosing yourself how you want to see it, what you want to see, and it can just, it's easier for me to look, okay, Jonas Gustavsson, POW, here it is. And then I get the whole picture. And that's an interesting development also for the future, I think. So what do you think about or Justin, I know that you've been also trying out the VR techniques. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, VR is becoming an incredible tool, like you said, a opportunity for coaches to deepen their toolbox. It has emerged just in the last 3 or 4 years. Obviously, VR has been around much longer than that, but as a public facing tool that, organizations and guys like myself can actually utilize, it's relatively new. And this is a space that moves extremely fast. So just with the Sense Arena program, its ability to develop a model for goaltenders to train off the ice has been remarkable. And with that comes, the opportunity to collect a whole lot of data. And that's really exciting. And, earlier I kind of spoke about the difference between collecting data within, just a single NHL game versus data that we can utilize to help goalies of all levels, throughout their entire career. I think that's where VR is really, really exciting. And when we're looking at collecting data on biometrics or, movement patterns or the repetition of a goalie going into specific stances, I think that's where I'm most excited about being able to use VR and some of these advanced technologies, because again, it helps broaden our perspective and getting, for example, I think, I think all of us talk about, we look at pitchers, for example, and they have a pitch count, in baseball, right? And there's been so much great work in baseball around, managing the health of a pitcher, an entire pitching staff. And I think that's something that, will continue to evolve in goaltending as more data and analytics and future facing technology are being used, as we can actually look at how often is a goalie dropping into the butterfly in a single practice, or, a single month or a single season. And when we start to gather that data and we can start to analyze it and have discussions around it, I'm sure 3 or 4 years down the line, we're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, why were goalies, taking so many shots in practice? This is crazy, right? But we don't have that context, and we don't have that knowledge right now. But it's starting to evolve, and it's starting to happen. And we're starting to have these discussions because the technology is actually there. So I think being able to lean on, a powerful immersive system and experience like VR, will not only enhance, the training and the data that's being collected, but be able to combine VR with other monitoring devices, that will enhance the data that we're collecting even more so, is coming. It's basically here now. So there's so much that you can gain, from these technologies being used. And as the technology advances, it's really exciting, right? Like I want to immerse myself. I want to, talk to the experts. I want to talk to, leading science researchers that are using VR to collect this information and learn what they're learning, and try and integrate it into goaltending in ways that we haven't used before because the technology didn't exist. So it's kind of a little bit like the Wild West, where, the technology's in our hands and we don't necessarily exactly know how we can use it. But there's a lot of exploration taking place, and that's what's so exciting about it, is there's really no limit to what we can do, as the technology continues to advance.
Thomas, you also tried out the VR techniques or looked into it. What's your thought about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually also on the board of Sensorina advisory board. And the reason for that is that I can't say I was looking for Sensorina, but I was looking for what it actually accomplished when we got it. And I was looking for it for a long, long time, because I sort of ran into a study that was done in early 80s, I think, of goalies and in connection with reading the release. And there was no technology to practice that at that time. But now with virtual reality, you can practice actually reading the release, especially in software like Sensorina, where you have actual footage of the shooter and the puck and being released from the stick. So what you do and what you can practice is what we've been looking for a long time, to be able to practice that outside of the rink, and in combination with what Justin is alluding to here, also injury prevention and also rehab, to be able to practice in different ways in different situations, depending on where you are in your practice planning, the load you have on your body, if you're injured, so on and so forth. And we actually did 2 studies here in Sweden on injury on goalies, specifically hips and groin problems. And I think in the future, that kind of research could be combined with some kind of software that we're talking about now, to get more data, to have more numbers, to have more be able to have many more goalies in many more situations, and also what Justin is talking about. What does it actually look like in a game when it comes to a goalie going down on the ice, stepping up, down, up, movement. What we started to look at in those studies was how goalies and their coaches look upon those different moves and movements and stances and what they think might be the problem. So the next step would be, if we had more data, to be more specific and see how that varies in different goalies and in different situations. And the next phase, of course, what can we do about it? How can we prevent overuse injury, which we found out is the big deal here, with over 80% of the injury in this region of the body is overuse of goalies who don't want to leave their net in a game, and definitely not in practice. So they continue to practice and play.
So guys, I mean, you already touched it. My next question is, I mean, I feel like I have a wishing list and on things that I would love to have that I can't really get right now. Looking at hockey analytics, if I look at a G, I can figure out details in his way of playing. I can see his what kind of gap is he having right during this game. Is that normal or not? Whatever. I can look into lots of stuff. Looking at goaltending, I can see where the shots are taken from, if it's even strength or whatever. I can see, I can get numbers from different areas, if it's inner slot, outer slot, whatever. But I would love to have more goalie specific data coming in. and that's really interesting. And that would be really, really nice to see something in the future. And it will probably be there also. And I understand the problems with it, because goalies have different strategies. So what's good for one goalie is maybe not that good for another goalie, and so on. So there's definitely issues to solve. But I think that's something that I wish for and looking forward to have in the future. Do you have any ideas or something that you've been thinking about? And I mean, there are guys listening right now that can actually get the process going. So
we have a direct line to Santa here, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay, since I'm not a user right now, I am involved with teams and national teams, but I'm not using any of this right now, so I haven't been following it that closely. So this may already be there, but my mission has been in goaltending to simplify things. I think it's a very complex game, so I think it's interesting and it's important to simplify the game. So what I'm looking for in goaltending, and thus looking for in analyzing goalies, is what happens when you make a save, or if there's a goal, but in connection with what happened before. So was there a pass? Was there someone moving the puck skating? Was there a lateral pass and a shot back against the grain? Everything that happened before, and connecting that with the result. Was it a goal? Was it a controlled save? Was it an uncontrolled save? And then what happened afterwards? Was there a rebound? And did it result in a new scoring chance? So to me, the most important thing would be to see the whole picture, to have that very graphic way of explaining this is what happened from beginning to the end in each situation.
Yeah.
And then piling those situations up and see trends.
Love it.
Yeah. For myself, you know, the last 10 years, I've spent most of my time researching mental performance and the holistic components of, goaltending development and training. And, there are some technologies that are starting to do this. You see it in some research studies, and it's the coolest thing ever. But going back to VR, and how we can use that to not only, enhance performance and help, manage goaltending health, but also collecting data. There are ways and there are technologies that, like I said, you can combine them together to help. What I'm looking for is, technology that's going to help us understand what's actually happening in a goalie's brain and body during performance. So we talk a lot about, optimal arousal level, or energy expenditure, some of these terms that are used in performance for a human being. And I think we're at the spot now, we're at the stage where, we can collect data on what is happening in the body during a performance. And I think that's so fascinating and so exciting because it brings more self-awareness to the goalie as an individual. And so I think when we're playing the game and we're in the moment, we're not thinking about what our body is doing. We're just reacting to what's directly in our environment around us. But if we can collect data while games are happening and then review that data and understand, okay, hey, in the third period of a 3-3 game, your optimal arousal level or some of your, some of your biochemistry is showing this. We're going to work on ways to, lower that or bring that back to a level where you're able to perform to the highest ability possible. So I think connecting the data that we're able to connect using these technologies to bring more self-awareness to the athlete, which helps with self-regulation and helps with recovery and all these other components to the mental game, and to performance, I think is amazing. And I think when we can put some power back in the goalie's hands and give them opportunities to learn more about themselves, they continue to self-regulate and they continue to evolve and develop in ways that coaches can't really help, right? Like we can try to say the right things, we can do all this preparation, but at the end of the day, performance comes down to the goaltender, him or herself. And so that's where I'm really excited about the future. And that's what I'm hoping for is that we continue to find ways to collect data on what is actually happening on the inside, and how that's affecting performance and how we can, continue to make progress in that area.
I was thinking, Jonas, you started off your journey a little bit as a goalie coach or doing some taking some classes and so on, the different step as a goalie coach in Sweden. I think there's an interesting challenge because month by month we get more and more of those tools. It goes lower and lower in age, and I think that's a challenge. How and when should we use this? On who, depending on age, depending on level, and so on. What's your thought about that, Jonas?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, I think generally, I think you have to let kids be kids as well. Yeah, I think for myself, I had a lot of fun just playing hockey when I was a kid. If things would be too serious every day and it would be all about technique and all that, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much, and I might not have been playing for this long. So I think it's tough to, I mean, everyone's different. It's tough to put a number on when to start using all these kind of tools and all that, but I think you have to be a little bit careful about, pushing it to them too fast, because it's still supposed to be fun in a game, and it's supposed to be something you do with your friends and all that. So that's tough, but at one point then you start, you get older and you get older, and then you want to, I think when you're searching for it, when you're starting asking questions about it, and when you're looking for it more and more, then maybe it would be a good way to, start using it more and more. But I think that's important for us, or for the goalie coaches and for the coaches, and be aware about that, because you could, you know, almost kill all the enjoyment if you use it too much too early, I think. And you have to be, I think too, I mean, in my opinion, it's easier to apply that later on, but it's tough if the goalie becomes too much of a, you know, perfect technique, a robot kind of. I think you kill all like the, you know, playing outside the box, you know, making those, you know, last minute saves that, you know, that sticks out. You know, I feel like you still need to be kid, to play around, to have fun for a long time, to still have that, and then you can apply the technique, the technology and all that later on. That's my opinion. Because if you do it too early, I think you'll miss some of that stuff that you would need later on as well.
I feel that responsibility is on us as coaches, of course, to introduce these things, in a good way. And the way you're saying, Thomas, any thoughts about?
Yeah, I love what Jonas said about you know, when you start to ask questions and you want to explore and learn more. I think that's something that's individually based. And I was fortunate growing up when I first started exploring goaltending and, you know, learning how to play. I didn't have any coaches. I didn't have anyone force feeding me statistics or trying to break down, you know, the angle of my knee bend and everything else, right? Like there was so much room to explore, and that really helped my own natural creativity. And I love what Jonas said, because I think it's so true. It's giving goalies the opportunity to explore. Like, let's be honest, like math is supposed to be fun, right? Like data and science and all of this stuff is supposed to be fun, and it can be an unbelievable way to guide a younger goalie into learning things that may not have anything to do with actual, you know, the movements in the crease. It's just exploring what goalies do and why they do it and how patterns emerge.
Yeah.
And so that's really valuable. And that's, I think, part of the learning process, and why it can be such a great tool. But trying to force it, I love what Jonas said. It's like, it takes all the fun out of it, you know? And so what's the point? Why are you putting all this time into gathering the data if who you're going to share it with isn't even really receptive to it? And so I think that's an important part too, especially when you're talking about younger goalies.
Yeah. Thomas, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a very important subject you bring up there, Mickey, and I love what Jonas is saying there too about kids being kids. We've had this discussion in Sweden a lot about the game getting serious, and what we put into it as adults, and the game is for the kids. So let them play the game as long as possible without coaches and parents trying to direct what happens around the game. But of course, as time goes on, it will be serious. And when it gets serious, I think that's up to discussion when it is. But when it is getting serious, of course, all these tools should be used. We should use all the tools we have access to. But the discussion is, when do we start using it, and for what reason, what purpose? Just like anything else, you need to have a purpose with these tools, like anything else. Like you have purpose with practice, you have purpose with what you want to do with your goalies if you're a goalie coach. So I think that's really important, that you ask yourself as a coach. But what we have noticed and what we have been discussing, you and I have done this a lot, Mickey, is that what we can use these ways of measuring should be compared to how we measure today. And how we measure today is very, very inaccurate. So if we can have more accurate measurement, that would be for the good, right?
Yeah. I think I was just thinking about something that just struck me when we're talking about statistics, numbers, videos, looking at things, and so on. It's so easy that we actually almost think like that when we're talking, that we're searching for errors, we're searching for things that's not good. But hopefully, I guess, and now I'm waiting for Jonas to say, yes, it was like that. I probably 90% of the time, at least, even more maybe, was looking at things that worked out great. Things, good movements or good numbers and good. So you use it as a positive reinforcement. Yeah, you know what I mean. So,
yeah, I totally agree.
So we don't use it as showing goalies what they've done wrong. It's more about building them up, I think.
Yeah, I would say 90% of it was probably a confidence booster. You know, you watch the good clips, you watch all the good situations. I mean, hopefully in a game, it's you know, if you're part of 50 situations, 48 of them is going to be, you know, somewhat close to what you want to do. It's always those 3, 4, 5 situations that okay, maybe I could have done differently here. So if you watch those 45, 48 clips about yourselves doing something good, and you watch them maybe a couple of times, then you see yourself 100 times doing stuff that's good, and then, you know, that's gonna, you know, get you that confidence booster. Even the off night when you felt like, okay, I let in five shots in 20 shots, 5 goals in 20 shots, and you felt awful and whatever, but then you look at it and there was so many situations that just missed the net, but you wouldn't touch the puck, but you did all the right things because you could, you know, you could see afterwards that you were in a good position. You did a lot of good things, and the goals, maybe, you know, it wasn't that as bad as it felt. So most of the times I would say you use all these kind of tools just to make sure that, okay, yeah, I had a good night, yeah, you know, make that good night even stronger. And when you had that off night, maybe it wasn't as bad. And then the few times when you have to, you know, change some stuff, you know, you could do it as well. But like you said, I would say most of the times it's a good thing. You know, you watch it, you know, you get the confirmation that, okay, this is good.
Yeah, good. Okay, guys, our time is out. I just want to thank you that you took your time off to do this with us. We will have a Q&A in a moment, and with hopefully interesting questions. Looking forward to that. So yeah, see you back in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
We just now had the goalies presentation. Prior to that, we had the analysts that work for the teams and discussed the different situations with the analytics here at the Linköping Hockey Analytics Conference 2022. And we have our goalies now here for a question and answer. Thanks for being with us, everyone. The first thing I have to say, what you guys have been talking about tells me that it's two different sports. We talked to the analysts that work for the team. They're talking forwards, defensemen, and they want to know what's going to happen. They want to use that. Listening to you guys all talk about the mental issue, and you talk about putting the goalie in the best mental place he can be. Jonas, you just discussed about having 90% of the video or the statistics coming back to you to making you feel good and making you be confident in the next situation, where all of you have discussed that. But the first question I'd like to start with is the analysts that work with the teams, the forwards and the defensemen, because they all then said our goalie coach works with the goalies, is do you have to filter the numbers or the stats for your goalie? So when you see the numbers, the stats, you put them through a filter. All of these team analysts said that they often put it through a filter before talking to the players. One team put it into colors, green, blue, red, or whatever it may be, to try to explain it. Or as I know goalies, most good goalies are extremely interested in the details, small details, and they want to know everything. So let me start with you, Justin. Is it about the details and knowing everything, or do you filter the things when you talk to goalies about, you talked about the VR, you talked about a lot of things you can learn, but also with the analytics?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to the coaching staff, the technology that we're using, and the goalies that we're having these discussions with. Every goalie is different. Every goalie is going to process this information differently, will want to have this information portrayed in a different way. So I think as long as there's a really good relationship, a two-way relationship between the goalies and the coaches, it's much easier to find the most efficient and the most effective path for having the information displayed and portrayed in a way that makes the most sense to the goaltender. So I hate to use the phrase, it depends, but it really does, because you have to take the goalie's mindset, the goalie's preferences into consideration when you are dissecting this information and making it digestible in a way that is, safe and relevant to the goaltenders in mind.
Thomas, when I think of you and your history with all the years that you've been in hockey, your communication skills is what I've heard, that you have a relationship, you build a rapport with your goalies, and you make them feel safe. You talked about focusing on the saves, not on the actual goals allowed, as a lot of what you've discussed historically. How do you put into the analytics on that? Is it just more knowledge, or is there more you can do with knowing even more about the different situations?
Well, of course, the more information we have, the better. But I also think it's really important to sort things out, to really see what you have use of. And to your first point, Mike, there, I think that was an interesting question that brought something else to my mind. I think, and I really believe, that it's so important for goalie coaches to take a larger part in the coaching group, and also to be involved in more parts of the game. And I think analytics is one way of getting to that point, to have goalie coaches more involved. Either they are video coaches or analytics, doing some analytics, or if not, and that part is a way of getting the coaching staff together and getting the goalie coaches to be more concerned about the entire game, not just what happens in the crease, more about what happens out on the ice before the shot, before the goal, before anything happens, and see the whole picture.
Mikael, you work now with the team, Linköping. Are you connected with the forwards, defensemen, or is it, again, two different situations with goalie coaches and then forwards and defense coaches, or do you work together?
Well, I'm connected. I'm definitely connected to some of the special teams parts of the game, and also overall giving my view on certain things. But mainly, of course, I'm focused on the goalie and using a filter, as you said. I have my way of looking at things, and then it's up to me to have a feel of what to show Jonas or what to show Marcus right now. And depending on what they need and what I think they need. So it's a communication thing, but we're definitely more, as I feel, I'm more involved in the game with the coaches than ever before.
Do you ever sit down with the defenseman and your goalie, Marcus Högberg, at this situation, and then discuss the analytics from a goalie and a defenseman's perspective, or is it just the goalie and then just the defenseman?
Oh, it's a bit, yeah, it depends. It depends.
Jonas, what do you feel? Do you feel, I mean, you've had experience in North America. You've had, obviously, experience here in Sweden for many years. Do you feel it's two different games and the way it's set up with the different statistics and the different ways of looking at it, or is it one together? Obviously, it's a team, and that's an easy way out to say we're a team, but this analytics thing is really interesting because it can get so much data and it's very, very specific.
Like we talked about, you have to sort out what's important. I mean, you can look at so many different things, and it's going to be too much. If you can just sort out, okay, what's important for me, what's important for the team, and I mean, in the end of my career too, my last couple of years, I like to sit down with the Ds to talk about different situations and get an understanding. Okay, here, how do you see this? This is how I see it, and then we can look at some numbers and some videos together about it. So I felt like in the end of my career, my last few years, I was working more together with the players. Obviously, I was doing the work for myself as well, but early on in my career, I was, when I had some statistics, some data or videos, I only worked just for myself, watched the goals, but in the end of the career, it was so much more. It was more, okay, we're trying to figure out stuff together with all the situations and the stats and the data. So I thought it was fun, and you learn a lot about how the Ds and how the players see it, and even to help them to understand how to score. Like I remember, like especially the young guys, they were always asking, hey, how do you see this situation? And if you look at the stats from here, it's this and that, and then we talk about it, and then you end up sitting there for half an hour with them. So I thought it was a lot of fun, and you can really use that together, I think.
So what you're saying then is that the analytics are a catalyst in English to create dialogues and discussion with your defensemen or with, as you say, young players, and helping them out. Where can you score on goalies and things like that? Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I mean, a lot of the times you end up with a little discussion, and then you end up sitting there for a long time. So, and sometimes you figure stuff out, sometimes you don't. But it's a good conversation to have, and in the end, it's going to lead to something good, I think.
Thomas, are goalies better today than they were previously or many years ago?
Of course, goalies are getting better and better, as everyone involved in hockey, D and forwards. So it depends. If you compare to the players, their opposition, I think the goalies were ahead very, very much for a very, very long time. But as skills are more focused on, with forwards, especially in scoring, the players are catching up and closing the gap.
We see now that in the NHL playoffs, in the Swedish playoffs, and the Swiss playoffs, there are goals all over the place. So obviously, as you say, that it's kind of coming back and getting back at the goalies for having such big equipment and things like that the forwards always complained about in the past 10 years. So that's a good thing. Mikael, what would you like to advance? What would you like to have in front of you for next season to help your goalies through an analytical standpoint?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in the panel also, that I think now we have lots of numbers and video and have really great ways to finding the things I'm looking for. But it's not goalie specific. It's more I can read out from different numbers where I know that, okay, then I will find this. But I would like to have some kind of more goalie specific tagging.
Can you be specific about what you like? Something, is it about movement, side movement? Is it about angles? Anything that you can...
absolutely. And how the puck travel before the shot. A little bit like that. So yeah.
Justin, thank you for being with us. What can you give us a last word? You talked a lot about VR. You talked about the emotional relationship or the mental relationship with goalies. Can you give us a last word for this panel?
Yeah, I think it's just important to continue to keep an open mind and continue to learn and try and further the research by having good discussions with individuals that are on this panel. I think everyone's experience with analytics is different. We all have very different backgrounds. And if we can try to keep those communication lines open between federations and countries and goalies that have had, wildly different careers, and are trying to use analytics for different reasons, that's going to make this whole movement even stronger and even more effective, not just for goaltenders, but for, all hockey players and all hockey organizations. And we just got done, running an event here in Colorado where we talked a lot about that integrative approach. And I think instead of just trying to silo goaltenders in their own little bubble and incorporate them more with what's happening on the defensive side of the ice and on the offensive side and in the neutral zone, there's so much rich information in the environment of a hockey game that everyone can learn from, and analytics can really be a driver for that. So I think the communication and like Jonas said, just trying to find that level of understanding between teammates, coaching staff, and those shared experiences is what really excites me about the future of analytics in hockey.
Great finishing point. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Our time is up, and great to be in this position to be the first Linköping Hockey Analytics Conference, and I hope to be many more, as we discussed early in the earlier panel, that this is the best way to get information out there and to talk about it and to improve and learn from each other. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.